Greetings, everybody. I am Lobo, and welcome to Luna. This is episode 189 of my Minecraft survival series, and as we were wrapping up last episode, literally as we were finishing filming last episode, I noticed that some of the residents of Luna had gotten themselves into some precarious situations, let's say. Like this villager who somehow got himself stuck atop the Luna Garden Center wall. I don't know how you managed that, but I will help you get down. Just give me a minute. I want to show you these guys something else first. So this is the one that really caught my attention to make me come down here and look around. Sawyer seems to have gotten his face lodged in the Timberland tree farm wall. This place is, of course, not operational at the moment, but that's no excuse, Sawyer. I don't know how you managed this, wandering around your room in your minecart, or I don't know what you were doing. But first things first, we're going to help these guys out before we do anything else today. So where Sawyer is actually supposed to be is atop this depowered rail at the center of the room. He's quite a ways off. We're going to have to push him back and over in order to get him there. Now, the problem is, he's a big boy. He doesn't like being touched. He's got some issues, you know, personal space issues, so we're not going to get too close to him. What we're going to go ahead and do is just kind of use a piston and try to nudge him to where he needs to be. So we're going to go ahead and start pushing bottom slabs into the room. And I know on this side we're not nudging Sawyer, but what I'm doing is I'm putting a stop on the side of this depowered rail over here. That way, once we do get him in his minecart atop that depowered rail, he won't be able to wander off again and get his face lodged in the wall, because, you know, that can't be comfortable for him, right? We don't want to see that. So we're going to go ahead and just make sure that once we get him back into position, he stays in position. All right, brace yourself, Sawyer. This is the tricky part. This is where we actually see if we can get him where we need him to be. And we got to nudge. We got to nudge. All right, so how far over do we actually need to move him? We need to go one more spot over, and then we can start pushing him back. And I don't know if this will impede his ability to act as the harvesting mechanism for the Timberland tree farm. But as I said, this thing hasn't been operational in a while. I have no intention, no plans of making it operational anytime soon. So, I mean, even if this does impede his ability to shoot at me while inside the tree farm and actually harvest our logs, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. And if we do decide to eventually attempt to get Timberland back up and running, which I don't know that we will, but if we do decide to try to do that, we can deal with any issues that arise when and if that time comes. But, I mean, really, Timberland Tree Farm and Sawyer, this is just an iconic site here in Luna, so we're just trying to maintain this historical site right now. This was a big part of the early series, right? So, I'm glad we got that wall delodged from your face, Sawyer. Now, we do need to shift focus to some of the other villagers here in Luna. I know there's this guy that's stuck on top of the wall. I'm going to go ahead and just, like, tour around Luna and just make sure no other villagers, no other residents of Luna are in, you know, awkward spots. But let's go ahead and see if we can stair step this guy down here first. If this doesn't work, then we may make a little trampoline for him to, oh, look at this. Yeah, dance on down, my friend, dance on down. Look how happy he is. Yes, perfect. All right, so now he's not stuck anymore. Look how happy he's dancing. Ah, this is great. All right, let me go ahead and double check on the other residents real quick. And yeah, everybody else does seem to be good here in Luna, including our newest villager who is hard at work right now. So that means we can go ahead and get back to work. Or actually get started, because we haven't started anything, right? So, quick recap of what we did last episode. We built the executive level, the executive offices and boardroom to Wolfen's laboratories over here in the quarantine district, which was probably a bit ill-advised, since it seemed to help out Wolfen's labs more than it did Luna, more than it did us, and more than it did helping to get Watchdog back. We should have really just stuck with building up the Enchantry. That probably would have been better for us. So we're going to go ahead and shift focus back to the Enchantry, and we'll think about, you know, one thing at a time. We'll think about getting Wolford back once we get Watchdog back, right? So I think what we're going to do here in the Enchantry today is start working on the interior here. Now, there is a lot of mess here preventing me from actually doing anything to the interior. So first things first, we need to go ahead and clear this place out. And there we go. Now we've got a little bit of room to work in here. So thinking about this place, it is called the Enchantry, so it would make sense that some enchanting happens here, right? So I think the main feature of this first floor, get centered real quick, the main feature of this first floor is going to be an enchanting table. Now, I want to have the enchanting table sunken down at the very center of this room, and that's for a couple reasons. Firstly, for depth, hopefully it ends up looking decent that way, but also if we have the floor angled upwards towards the walls, that's going to prevent mobs from getting in here, because you may have noticed that mobs do wander into the Enchantry at night, and we can't have that, right? So if the outside floor is located at about this height, they won't be able to get up there, they won't be able to get in here, which should be better for us. You know, that's just one of the problems we recognized as we were building this place, and that's just, you know, an easy solution to prevent that from happening. Now, as far as the floor of our little enchanting station goes, I'm thinking we might want to work in some sneaky storage, and we can do that fairly easily with some droppers over here. Do we want them to have the holes on top, or would we rather they be kind of like that, a little bit more... Yeah, it's a little bit more subtle, isn't it? So maybe we'll go ahead and get rid of the upwards facing ones. Now, since we've used spruce in this build already for our walkways, for our docks and stuff like that, I want to also go ahead and tie spruce into the interior flooring of this build. So we're going to go ahead and convert the oak tops of these bookshelves into spruce trap doors and just see how that works for us, because I think that might make everything a little bit more cohesive, right? Also, you'll notice I'm working some hidden lighting in here, and that's because we are going to have some of the floor be on the full block level. And as I said, preventing mob spawns, that's always a big concern, right? Now, I want to add a little bit more color to our block palette over here at the Enchantry, and I was thinking maybe some purple, potentially purple, whatever color dye the lilacs make, because we are using lilacs to kind of decorate the Enchantry, right? So let's go ahead and see what color that actually is. All right, so we've got some lilacs over here, and this makes magenta dye. Okay, so we're going to be adding some, not purple, but magenta to the block palette of the interior of the Enchantry. And that's in addition to the other blocks I previously told you guys we were going to use. Like when we were building the Guardian statue, I told you guys we were going to be using some blackstone. We're going to go ahead and start tying that into the build as well. So the basic idea of this floor design is just going to be alternating these blocks in a series of concentric circles, like gradually stepping up till we get to the edges of the room, right? So, I mean, the Arcanine Order, they're going to want to watch where they're going as they're navigating the Enchantry, because there's going to be, you know, plenty of little trip hazards along the way. Eee, that's not right, is it? That's not right. How did I manage that? All right, well, I'm sure some of you guys saw me doing that, and I just want to let you know that I've now caught it and I have fixed it. But it would probably be a good idea to make sure this is actually a circle before we do anything else. All right. So we have a pretty good idea of what we're going to do with the floor. Now, thinking about the walls, I do kind of want to differentiate the interior walls from the exterior walls. I want to continue to add color to this place, right? So I think we're going to keep rolling with the magenta terracotta, potentially for either the walls or the ceiling. I'm not 100% sure which yet, but I also know I want to tie in a couple other blocks as well, some of the new nether blocks. So what I'm thinking is we might use a pretty generous amount of basalt, which we are definitely going to need to harvest more of. But in addition to the basalt, I also want to tie in some of the stripped wart blocks, these warp stems right here, which we don't really have any of at the moment. So yeah, I probably didn't think this through well enough, because I'm going to need to do a bit of farming in order to get what I want to get, in order for us to do what I want to do in this episode. And unfortunately, the only farms we have for these blocks right here are these like little temporary farms, which are not going to be sufficient at all. So these may be due for an upgrade, but I don't want to build the like permanent farms here yet though. I'm not ready for that. So this is basically what our block palette is going to look like. Let me go ahead and strip these real quick. So I think all these colors work pretty well together. Now, as far as what we're going to use in what areas, I'm thinking the basalt is mostly going to be structural. So the first thing I'm thinking for that is we might frame the doors in the basalt. So let me go ahead and give you guys an idea of what that could potentially look like. And I'm not super worried about the orientation of the blocks, at least for this build, because like the whole idea behind this build, if you'll remember, is that it's kind of materializing in this dimension from another. Things are fragmented. They're not coming through as they should. So I think at least stylistically, like we can afford to, you know, be kind of careless with our block placement here. And we're actually going to use several layers of this basalt to kind of, you know, step out the doors and just kind of shrink this room a little bit, because it's a huge room, right? And we will be using, I think, some of the basalt and blackstone, potentially. I don't know about the color, but we will be using at least the basalt and blackstone on the exterior of this, because remember, we never actually finished building the exterior. I know I haven't touched it in a while, but, you know, I just want to kind of, figure out some other aspects of this so that way we can, tie everything in together a little bit better once we do get to that point. Now, as far as the ceiling goes, I'm thinking we might just kind of echo what we did on the floor here, obviously minus the Enchanting Station. But I think at this point I do have a pretty good idea of what I want to do with this room. Oh my goodness, this is going to take forever. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that we could temporarily, because remember, these are all temporary farms right here, right? And I don't want to build the permanent farms yet because this is like kind of a Wolfen's Laboratory thing. And I don't want to build anything for Wolfen's Laboratory at the moment. So what I'm thinking we do is just kind of, beef up these temporary farms a little bit. So if you'll excuse me for, just a moment. Hold up. Why? No, you don't belong here. This is not where you belong, overworld mobs. Oh my goodness. I need to, get him. Good job. Good job. You'll excuse me for just a moment. I need to go grab a couple things. All right, so, our basalt, we have a very basic basalt generator right here, and I've kind of just mirrored it. So I figure, if we double it up, if we mirror it, we can harvest double the basalt and get double the resources from it. So I think, yeah, this should potentially work for our basalt at least. And then for our warped and crimson blocks, instead of doing what we were doing, which is just like manually bone mealing, then breaking the stuff that sprouts, and then, bone mealing the fungus, what we do is we go ahead and wash away everything that sprouts up, which should include the fungus. This way, we should be able to stockpile the fungus and then just like plant bone meal, harvest, plant bone meal, harvest. This would be better if I could actually get some fungus to sprout. So there we go. So yeah, we should be able to wash those away and then collect those. That way we could just plant bone meal, harvest, like I was saying, right? So at this point, I feel like we have a pretty good idea of what we're going to be doing with at least this first room, the main room of the Enchantry. And keep in mind, whatever we do in here, this kind of sets the tone for the rest of the Enchantry as well, which I don't think we'll get around to in this episode because this seems like it's going to be a pretty big project. But before we actually get started, we do need to go ahead and collect some resources. So I guess we'll go ahead and call Dee Dee on over to the Waterside District, put on a little bit of music, and get to work. Hold up, guys. we interrupt your regularly scheduled time lapse because I don't think this is supposed to be doing this. I don't think this is supposed to be producing as much basalt as it's currently producing. I'm not complaining. I'm actually very happy right now because this is going to drastically reduce our resource gathering time. But I do have a feeling that I've just discovered something that's not supposed to happen. Or maybe not. Maybe this is just a thing that happens with like basalt generators and cobblestone generators. I don't have enough experience with any of these things to actually, say for certain. It just seems a little odd to me, is all I'm saying, that by doubling the size of this farm, we've sped it up tremendously. Like the longer I sit here, the quicker it seems to go. Like just bear with me for a second. You'll see we get to the point where we're just like non-stop harvesting basalt, which does seem a bit odd to me, is all I'm saying. But we're going to take advantage of this. I'm actually going to harvest so much more basalt than I was actually intending to. Because, yeah, I'm not going to pass up this opportunity. Like I said, if this just thing that happens, feel free to correct me in the comments. I know somebody will. Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled programming. Welcome back, everybody. We've got some of the interior of the Enchantry now a little bit more finished. It's not finalized yet, but you can see I made some changes from what I told you guys I was going to do. Like, you can see, like, we worked some prismarine in there, right? That's to kind of keep with the prismarine that we have going around the doors, just to try to tie some stuff in together a little bit better. I'm also going to start bringing some of the blackstone that we used inside to the outside as well. And just to reiterate, the high floors were to keep mobs that spawn out here from getting inside the Enchantry, so that way the Arcanine Order and I can come in here in peace, right? So let's go ahead and take a look around this place, and I actually forgot to clean up before I brought you guys in. I'm so sorry about that. Let me go ahead and pick up after myself real quick. That way the view is not obstructed, you know, because when we look at the Enchantry, we want to see the Enchantry, right? Let me go ahead and get back over here to the entrance. So this is what we're going to see upon entering the Enchantry over here, and I'm overall liking it, you know? I mean, we didn't use the warp that we collected. We ended up rolling with prismarine instead, just to, you know, as I said, try to tie things in with the exterior a little bit better. But that does mean we have some warp now if we ever decide to use it for another project. So, I mean, no big loss there. Just a little bit of time, right? We did use some of the crimson fences, though, along with the prismarine walls, just to keep with the fragmented feel that we have on the exterior. And you will notice there is a hole at the center of the ceiling right here. I'm thinking we might actually leave that there so we can see up into the central tower. And obviously that's not done yet. In fact, none of the towers are actually done. None of the side wings are done. We will get around to that eventually. I just have to kind of put a little bit more thought into them before we actually start. I mean, overall, this place does seem to be coming together. Who is that? It does. It does seem to be coming together. How dare you criticize me? It's not complete yet. Everybody wants to be a critic. There you are. I see you. You know what? I don't appreciate that. Not one bit. It is coming together. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. It is coming together. Now, I'm sure the question on some of your minds is, how is that going to work? How is the raised floor going to work with the stairway that actually leads us up into the Enchantry, which is on the other side? And the easy answer to that question is it's not going to work. Like, it's just not going to work, because I mean, these stairs are already steeper than I wanted them to be, and they would have to be super steep in order for us to actually get up to this floor level right here. So that's not going to work. And aesthetically, I don't know, there's no easy way to transition into the Enchantry from this. So what I think we're going to do is just go ahead and get rid of this little section of the pathway up here and rework it, so that way everything fits and flows a little bit better. So I was thinking the most natural way to transition between the different floors of this place is just to have a designated stairway. Now, this stairway is not only going to go up to the upper levels of the Enchantry, because I know we've discussed that previously, working stairways into the side wings, but it's also going to go down into the sub-level of the Enchantry, which is going to be a new area that's going to serve as a transitional point between the cave that we used to get up here from the docks and the Enchantry itself. I think I might want to... I'm gonna extend this by another block. So we could do something like this, using spruce for our actual floors in here, and I just want to make sure we got enough room to actually walk around, which we do, and we have enough room around all the edges to actually get some walls in surrounding this stairway as well. Yeah, I think this is probably going to be good, and we can carry this as far up or as far down as we need to, right? And as far as getting to other areas of the Enchantry, that's pretty simple. What we can do is just branch off of the various landings of this stairway, and that can take us to different areas. For instance, like this side tower over here, this will take us over here. And you'll notice I am putting this walkway kind of high up above these exterior arches. That way we can get in some basalt around these as well, or at least inside of them. Kind of like we did the basalt inside these interior archways. We're going to do the same thing on the exterior, just to promote that sense of cohesion, right? And actually, I guess let me just go ahead and show you, in case you don't know what I'm talking about. If you look at this, you can see the basalt on the inside of the prismarine right here. Yeah, it's going to look the same, or almost the same, over here. And since the Enchantry is pretty much symmetrical, we're going to do the exact same thing that we did over here to this side as well. So this is also going to go up into the various higher levels of the Enchantry, but also down into that sub-level we were just talking about a little while ago. We weren't just talking about the sub-level we were talking about not too long ago. I am all over the place right now. Now, these stairways are not something I wanted to build in this episode, but I'm going to have to at least get like the general structure of them in order to build what I did want to build in this episode. So I think at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of, do a rough, or actually a very smooth idea of what these stairways are going to look like using this magenta terracotta. I think eventually we'll come in here, add a little bit of block variety, maybe chip out some blocks, add some of the crimson fence posts in here, just so everything's not looking so pristine. But in order for me to do what I wanted to do, I am going to have to build these stairways up a little bit. There we go. So I got some of the stairways in. I added some little details to it. I know I said just a general structure, but I thought maybe this would look kind of cool. And I think this does look kind of cool, and it gives us a use for that warp stuff we harvested a bit earlier. So I'm liking that for now. I just want to get that in place while it was still in my mind that I wanted to do it. But now the thing we have to think about is how do we actually make this look right with the interior of the Enchantry? Thinking maybe, I don't know. Give me a minute. I'm gonna play around with this. Well, I mean, actually, the obvious answer is just to do what we've done elsewhere in the Enchantry down here as well. Just kind of carry the blackstone and basalt through this. We'll throw some crimson fences up there as well, and I think that should be good. Look, give me a minute, and we'll see what it looks like. I just pepper this stuff around randomly. I think that should be good though. I think that should be good. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like from across the room so we can get a better idea of what it actually looks like. All right. Yeah, I mean, a little bit more crimson fence, but I think overall that's good. So there are a few more things I want to do to the interior of the Enchantry here, but before I get around to that, I need to figure out how we're going to link this up to the sub-level that is going to eventually be down here. So if we just continue pushing this stairway down the same way we were, the floor is going to be about right here, and the new entrance to the sub-level will be somewhere in the middle of this cave system. I'm not quite sure exactly where yet. It all depends on how everything links up. But then we'll be able to go up some stairs into the Enchantry, but not only on this side of the Enchantry, we're going to be able to access it through the other side of the Enchantry as well. So that does mean a pretty significant portion of the inside of this mountain below the Enchantry will have to be hollowed out. So I think at this point, what we're going to go ahead and do is just go ahead and call Dee on over here, put on a little bit of music, and try to get this whole transitional sub-level thing knocked out. Ow. And you know what? Maybe in addition to that, see, I kind of messed up my flow here. In addition to that, maybe I'll go ahead and finish doing some details to that interior first floor of the Enchantry. That way we got a little something extra to come back to, right? And welcome back, everybody. So we have a little bit more of the Enchantry interior built, but we're going to go ahead and check it out the proper way by going in through the proper entrance down here by the docks. That way we can see how it feels as we transition from this area up into the Enchantry. Hi, you should not be here, my friend. You need to vacate the premises. Thank you. Oh, look, he brought ink sacks for me. That was nice. How do you get in here? He wandered in from outside. That's like the only, because this whole place should be non-spawnable. So I bet he wandered in from outside. Anyway, the whole purpose of this is to bring us from the cave into the Enchantry itself using this new transitional area that we have that hopefully ties this cave in together a little bit better with the first floor of the Enchantry. That way it's not such a stark contrast as we, emerge into the actual Enchantry, right? So, I mean, I think this works. We got some elements of the Enchantry, some elements of the cave in here. We got fires raging all around, so I'm going to try not to singe my toes because I did that a few times while building this thing. We got this thing at the center of this. It's a thing. And then we have the stairways that go up into the actual Enchantry. And I'm actually going to go through the other one because I did put some reminders on the other one that I do need to rework the stairways. That way I don't actually forget them. Namely these crimson fences right here, these crimson fence posts. I just threw a couple on the inside of this. That way I know eventually I'm going to have to come back in here and kind of vary up some stuff. Kind of, knock out some blocks and replace those and just add a little bit more, I don't know, variation to this and make it look a little bit more crumbly, than what it looks like right now. But this, I think, eases the transition up into this more grand section of the Enchantry, right? Where a cave would not have looked right coming up into the side of this place. So I think overall, I'm actually pretty happy with this. This is a first floor almost finalized. There's still a couple other things we're going to add here eventually, but they're little things. And I need to figure out what we're actually going to do before I actually do that. But the main focus here is, of course, the enchanting table and all that stuff, all our enchanting supplies and stuff. But not only the enchanting table, we're also going to, as you can see here, have little anvils that are disguised as like wither skeleton busts, right? That we can further enchant our tools using the anvil. And we have these hidden storage compartments in the floor where we're going to be able to store books and all kinds of stuff like that. And also I swapped out the droppers down here on this floor with some barrels as well, just to keep that sense of cohesion and unity. That's where we'll store our lapis and stuff. But as you can see, we have plenty of storage space all around here. So this may in the future take the place of our farmhouse as our main site for enchanting our gear and stuff like that, so long as the Arcanine Order is actually okay with it, which hopefully they will be if we can work out a deal with them to get Watchdog back. It seems like we're both pretty much against Wolfen's Lab, so we do have that in common. And potentially, if that works out, maybe they'd be willing to take in some of Luna's residents to help them kind of rebuild after all they've been through. And in anticipation of that, I have put in where some future bubble elevators may go to bring some villagers up into this spot. Villagers that I think would be able to help them out, namely clerics and librarians, stuff of that nature. And those little extra things I was telling you I wanted to add, it's not a secret, so I'll go ahead and tell you. Like, once 1.17 fully releases, we'll probably add some candles in place of these torches on fence posts here. And also some lecterns for librarians, brewing stands for clerics, stuff of that nature. Again, so long as we can come to some sort of agreement with the Arcanine Order. And as night falls over the Enchantry, we get an excellent view of the moon rising over Luna just beyond Wolfen's Laboratory's quarantine district, which I thought was really cool. I really like this view, and I just want to stick around and show you guys that. But we're pretty much done for today as far as building goes. Of course, the main focus was on this room, the main floor of the Enchantry. There's still a ton of work left to be done here. We already talked about the stairways. We will get around to that eventually when we tackle the rest of the interior. And there's still a lot more of interior to do too. We have these side wings, the towers that jut out of them, which are not especially big, but we still want to make everything usable and presentable, right? We have a lot of landscaping to do, not only on the island itself, but also on some aspects of the Enchantry Tower, like this bit of grass right here, and we have some more grass down there. All of that's going to get replaced with some of the warped nalium or whatever it is. We have the main tower right here, which we're going to be dressing up a little bit as well, though it will mostly consist of a stairway that allows us to get up to the pinnacle of this, Enchantry Tower. So we'll be able to get from the bottom way down there all the way up to the top, where she who is not yet named has been telling us a story, which I am more and more inclined to believe is actually, a factual account of stuff that happened in Luna that we were not previously aware of. And we learned a little bit about Wolfred Wolfens, who is not the Wolfred that we know, the Wolfred we know and love. It's Wolfred Wolfens Sr., otherwise known as the Grey Wolf, who sought sovereignty over Luna, over all of this land. He wanted to take over everything that we can currently see and probably a lot of stuff that we can't see. And the Arcanine Order was standing in his way. Now, we don't really know what happened, but hopefully we'll get a clue here on page 4. So it goes,
Many had sought to triumph over the Arcanine Order. Many had failed. But the Grey Wolf was more clever than them. Than us. He found the island, the convergence point of all dimensions where they lay, the old ones who bestowed our powers upon us.
Okay, a lot to unpack here. First of all, the island, I believe the island she's talking about is Ender Island, which is not that island, but an island just beyond that, where the convergence point of all dimensions, that's where the end portal is, right? And we have another portal there as well. And then they capitalized. The old ones, that's familiar. They capitalized. I've read that before. I did not realize that was talking about a specific they. Hey, can we clarify something real quick? She who is not yet named. Hey, bear with me for a second, guys. I'm gonna try something a bit risky. Hey, book lady, can we talk? No, okay, that didn't work. I just want a little bit more. I need more information. I don't know. I need more. Okay, well, I guess, you know, the story continues, but another day. Hey, undead dude, I'm trying to outro my video here. Can you give me a little bit of space? Hello. Okay, you know what? We're just gonna deal with the sounds. That's fine. We'll deal with the sounds. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please be sure to hit the little thumbs up button to let me know. That would mean a whole lot to me. And if you want to see more, please remember to subscribe. But as always, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I deeply appreciate it. And until next time, I am Lobo, and I will see you guys later.